Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Pro AV today. I'm your host, Ben Thomas, as always, and today's discussion is one that I've been looking forward to having for a while. And it's one place that a lot of folks in our industry, all the way up from the executive level to the individual end user, installer, operator level, we get questions about all the time, and that's hiring, retention, staffing, recruiting, things like that. And it's a world that just has so many questions, especially in the world of B2B, especially in the world of B2B technology. So I said, look, I do not have all the answers, but I know somebody who can help point us in the right direction. So that's my next guest, Shelby Gartner from TransUnion. Shelby, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Excited to be here.
Well, look, we're so excited to hear your voice today and really kind of lending maybe just some of that extra experience from things that we've learned outside of maybe the traditional blue collar B2B worlds and finding some ways that we can help apply some of those strategies into our recruiting. So, first question, would love to kind of start with a general one, right? When you think about the world of B2B, a lot of times that world skews very blue collar. It skews very, in some cases, rural. There are so many different places or so many different ways that it differs largely for the B2C community, especially when you segment out B2B technology as its own kind of specific vertical. But on a high level, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing, especially in macro trends and hiring, that the B2B world is maybe slow to adapt to, or some of the things that we can learn from even on a high level?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on that in some of the more rural areas, we do see a lag behind, East Coast, West Coast, large cities across the country where employers and B2B distribution models are quicker to adapt some of the custom technologies that are more tailored to an individual's specific needs. Um, Unfortunately, some of those resources are a bit more lacking in rural areas. And so we like to believe that we fill a niche in that regard with our ability to provide tailored, specific products that allow a member, an employee, an individual to really take control of their own destiny when it comes to all things digital, fraud, identity related as well.
Well, the great thing about the technology world is that from time to time, we like to bridge the gap between maybe some of the traditional B2C trends and the more hyper niche B2B, even more rural and blue collar spaces. So we kind of toe that line from time to time. But, have you seen people roll out strategies to effectively kind of bridge that gap? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. I think a common issue or hurdle that many companies are required to face is quiet quitting. It's been a key challenge for many. And I think that the ability for an employer to reiterate the importance of being able to accommodate remote workforces, hybrid workforces, different varying return to office policies allows for that employer to have a better finger on the pulse of how employees are needing their employer to interact with them. I think quiet hiring strategies have also helped employers to confront many of these challenges. So internal promotions, upskilling and functions of this strategy so that there are bumps in compensation and there are newly created benefits that go above and beyond maybe just your traditional medical life insurance type of benefit as a strategy to really engage that population.
Well, one of the things that I've found, at least anecdotally in my world, is that, the world of benefits and benefits packages tend to mean a lot more maybe than they did even 5 to 10 years ago, right? Because you've got things like wellness benefits and you've got, obviously things like work from home or all sorts of maybe financial training, things like that. What are some of these benefits that you're seeing kind of cross over into the hiring world, specifically over in the B2B side?
Great question. I think many partners are utilizing benefits packages as part of their recruitment strategy. They want to align with the workforce's expectations. So, in talking with our benefit brokers and our consultant partners who partner with TransUnion on a day to day basis, we're seeing a really reinvigorated focus on the total wellness of employees as a method to attract and then to retain that top talent. Employers are enabling work-life balance with a renewed vigor, but they're also getting creative with physical, mental, social, and as you mentioned, financial health benefits as well. So employers are willing to invest more in their employees at the end of the day and earn their loyalty and their engagement. So I think a key example from our perspective, we're seeing financial coaching come on to the voluntary benefits scene in a really, really big way. What's interesting is the willingness for employers to offer this as a paid benefit, even. So, particularly among those focused on inclusion and equity, they're realizing that employees who may benefit from this program most are oftentimes the very same employees who might not be able to afford it. And again, that can reach from white collar clear through blue collar industries as well.
Well, and before we dig into kind of the digital transformation and digital nomad side of things, I wanted to kind of ask, because I know we've probably got some people listening right now saying, okay, this all sounds great and fantastic, but I'm, a small rep firm in Iowa, right? I might be somewhere that may traditionally not offer a lot of these benefits, but people want to know where to start and maybe how can they build that on ramp, right? We'll talk, like I said, a little bit more about the digital transformation side of things in a second, but what advice do you have to someone who might not even be remotely considering this, who might say, you know what, maybe I should look into something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Iowa's just up the road from me. I'm a Kansas City gal. So
That was not on purpose, by the way.
perfect plug. For those who are wanting to consider a more innovative and robust package, but aren't really sure where to start, you're not alone. There are employers that we work with every day that are trying to crack the code between how to manage work-life balance for their employees alongside productivity. At the end of the day, productivity is very important. And I know that employers are wanting to do the right thing by their employees by providing the ability to accomplish work-life balance. So everyone recognizes that a happy employee that feels recognized and appreciated is going to most likely be a more productive employee. That's why employment structures and benefit programs that reduce those stressors, like financial struggles, can become increasingly popular and are continuing to do so. So I do believe that our partners across the country, no matter where it is, are having those conversations with their counterparts to say, hey, what are you finding successful maybe in the Atlanta market? How can we implement that in Des Moines? What are our counterparts doing in Denver to accomplish this? And so just the continued dialogue and willingness to share those ideas amongst peers in the industry is really driving the conversation forward in a great way.
Well, that's a fantastic answer, and I really appreciate kind of the insight there, and I want to even take that to the next level, right? And I'm afraid I'm probably about to open a can of worms. So, traditionally in the world of B2B, it's no secret, especially in the blue collar fields, remote work, digital nomadism, whatever you want to call it, hasn't historically been something that's been popular or possible, right? For one reason or another, and you see that continuing to be one of the benefits that people offer. But how can people balance that? Hey, I'm a plumbing firm, right? I can't do remote work. How have you seen people bridge that gap? Maybe it's through platform access, maybe it's through technology grants and benefits. What are some of the ways that you're seeing folks bridge that gap that maybe can't traditionally offer that work from home?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an important question. It's one that's being raised more and more frequently. I think that even though we can't meet everybody where they are, unfortunately, or where they need to be met to best interact with a product, we can certainly take strides to attempt to and to learn from those approaches. Hyper personalization of a benefit or of a service is one of the consistent threads that's running through our daily interactions with technology, whether it's meeting that employee in their remote or hybrid work arrangement, or when they're in person in the office or in a factory. From applications to online marketplaces, I think the Internet of Things to autonomous services, employees have become accustomed to being seen and treated as distinct individuals with distinct goals and distinct needs. So voluntary benefits, insert here, are being transformed by this as well. So through the integration of these hyper-personalized features and functions of a product, they're becoming more valuable, more attractive, and easier to opt into at the end of the day. So it's all about communication and making sure that people understand what's available to them and how they can best benefit from it, regardless of their work situation.
Shelby, I love that idea of hyper personalization, right? And I kind of want to ask in that world. So when I'm maybe if I'm a recruiter or I'm on the HR side, does that normally, the hyper personalization process, does that happen during the recruiting phase? Does that happen, during your traditional, yearly opt-ins for healthcare and all your benefits, or is that something that you can adjust in real time? How does that typically work for maybe an employee specifically?
Yep, I think we're seeing a trend towards a personalization of the entire life cycle, from recruitment, onboarding, going through those first 60 to 90 days and making sure an employee feels that this is a right fit, clear through retention of that top talent. So in the digital world, if this digital revolution, if you will, has taught us anything, it's that there's value in feedback loops. So TransUnion, like many people-centric organizations, is driven by data. Many organizations are driven by data, and that definitely impacts the way in which we innovate in the benefits space. So it's going to impact the way in which we recruit, we retain, we attract that top talent through those robust benefits packages, and just making sure that it is custom and tailored and specific to the population at hand.
I love, kind of you mentioning the feedback loop there, right? That I would say that's paramount, whether no matter what industry you're in, paramount for a healthy employee-employer relationship. What are some of the strategies in B2B specifically where you've seen that feedback loop, right? A lot of times it might be something where everybody's in office every day and, hey, maybe I've got a once a week with my boss, whatever. But what are some of those strategies that you've seen to be successful, especially when it comes to providing and asking for feedback?
Yep, absolutely. So for us, an example of how we value and enact this would be the way in which we've evolved our identity theft protection solution to deliver user level intelligence. And that's going to be on the risks faced by a specific particular employee. So again, we're moving away from addressing a population as a whole, and we're getting back to remembering that everyone's human and addressing everybody at their own individual level. So just to further dive into that example, my risk for identity theft and my needs as an employee are going to be very, very different than yours, for instance. And that's because there are different pieces of our personally identifiable information that have been exposed or stolen in unique ways. So the more times and the more ways in which we can interact with employees that are specific to them and their vulnerabilities, the trust is gained, and the interaction with the product and the services, or the experience in the instance of onboarding and recruitment, is all the more successful because of that.
Well, in the spirit of feedback and hyper personalization, do you typically find, especially one of the challenges with hyper personalization is that when you get too far removed, maybe from an employee or too high up the food chain, you lose a little bit of that, right? Typically, in cases like this, especially where you are offering hyper personalization and benefits and recruiting and things like that, do you typically find that happens on a macro level at the HR side, or do you see that a lot more times happen at maybe the managerial and supervisor role?
Yeah, I think it happens across the board in successful organizations. There's an attempt to have it happen across the board, right? So we're wanting you to feel that your experience is unique, your plight is unique, and the way in which we can help solve any of the issues that you're facing is also unique and tailored to you. So again, any cross communication between departments from top to bottom where they can accomplish that is a win at the end of the day.
Well, Shelby, I'm going to ask you to take your crystal ball out here for just a second.
Perfect. Let me just
And
it off.
yes, go ahead, take it out. Obviously, the last 5 years have accelerated a lot of the trends happening in hiring across every sort of industry, right? But one of the things that you've seen pretty rapidly evolve is the use of technology, right? Whether it's AI, whether it's resume tracking, whether it's predictive analytics, right? There's all sorts of different ways that these technologies are being used. If you were to say, hey, let me guess 5, 10 years in the future, what sorts of technologies do you anticipate folks rolling out, or maybe even strategies using technology rolling out during their hiring, recruiting, and retaining processes?
Absolutely. I think employers, as they attempt to evolve and meet the market at its greatest need in the future, we'll see employers that are financing and funding not only just involuntary benefits, but also that they're expanding the number of voluntary benefits that are offered to employees. So instead of making a blanket decision for the entire population to say, here are the benefits that we feel might be important based off of our own individual needs, they're taking into consideration the needs of others. So as we see and we think and reflect on a growing appreciation for diversity and equity and inclusion in the workplace, those are all fantastic things. And employers recognize that what's important to someone nearing retirement is going to be quite different than someone who's maybe fresh out of college or planning their young family. So the further recognition and again using data and analytics to inform their decisions based off of their employee population is going to help employers to have a more robust and well-rounded approach to recruitment and retention.
Well, Shelby, we appreciate you giving your time today and answering a lot of the questions that I know I've heard from our community. Wanted to ask before we let you go, where can people find out a little bit more, not only about you, but maybe some of the ways that they can better serve their B2B hiring communities?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find out more about TransUnion by simply visiting our website. I work with the Identity Force product for TransUnion. And so that is identity theft protection and fraud prevention. So, again, a great recruitment strategy, a great innovative product and offering that we see a number of our brokers, our consultants, and our employer partners offering to their employees. Financial wellness and inclusivity is a huge focus for us. I do think we'll continue to see that to trend into the future. As the economy is as it is, we want to be able to provide those resources to employees and individuals to set goals and accomplish them. And the fact that you can differentiate by making products available to consumers and employees really sets apart an organization as industry leading, as cutting edge, as caring about their employee workforce, which goes a long ways towards recruitment and retention as well.
I couldn't agree with you more, Shelby, and I think that that's a great place for us to wrap up our conversation today, especially focusing on the individual employee and empowering the individual employee, because at the end of the day, they are the backbone of our B2B communities. So, Shelby, thanks so much again for coming on the show today. We look forward to having you again soon.
Thank you so much, Ben.
And thank you all for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and check us out next week on Pro AV Today.